The 70s Horror Review. The Vampire Lovers. Just the facts. The Vampire Lovers is the name of a British horror film that was released in cinemas in the UK on the 4th of October 1970. The film was made by Hammer Film Studios, the company responsible for the iconic Dracula pictures starring Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing and many other such gothic horror films. The Vampire Lovers was directed by veteran film and TV director Roy Ward Baker, whose other credits include A Night to Remember, Quatermass and the Pit, The Avengers, and Scars of Dracula. The film was written by Tudor Gates, based on the 1872 novel Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu. Plot. Carmilla Karnstein, a female vampire, targets wealthy families in 18th century Germany and infiltrates the home of General Spielsdorf with both lustful and bloodthirsty intentions toward his young niece, Laura. When Laura falls sick and dies, Carmilla moves on to the Morton family, where a similar fate seems to await their daughter, Emma. Cast. The film stars Ingrid Pitt in the role of the vampire villainess Carmilla. Pitt was a Polish-British actress who made her film debut in 1965's Dr. Zhivago and went on to appear in a number of horror films, including Countess Dracula and The House That Dripped Blood, as well as appearing in two Doctor Who stories, 1972's The Time Monster with Jon Pertwee and 1984's Warriors of the Deep with Peter Davison. The Vampire Lovers also stars Madeline Smith as Emma Morton. Smith appeared in Taste the Blood of Dracula, also 1970, and Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell, both for Hammer Films, as well as Theatre of Blood with Vincent Price and the 1973 Roger Moore James Bond film Live and Let Die. Another familiar face for Doctor Who fans is Kate O'Mara, who plays the Morton family governess, Mademoiselle Peridot. O'Mara also appeared in the Hammer film Horror of Frankenstein, as well as a number of TV drama series such as Triangle, The Brothers, and Howard's Way, with Doctor Who fans knowing her as the villainous time lady the Rani in the 1985 Colin Baker story Mark of the Rani and the 1987 Sylvester McCoy story Time and the Rani. Also appearing in the film is Hammer legend Peter Cushing, albeit in a slightly smaller role than usual as General Spielsdorf. Cushing's career spanned decades and hundreds of films and television shows, with his most famous roles being as Baron Frankenstein and Van Helsing in the Hammer horror Frankenstein and Dracula franchises, and as Grand Moff Tarkin in the original Star Wars. Playing Emma's father, Roger Morton, is another British acting legend, George Cole, whose other credits include the 1971 horror thriller Fright, but who is most famous for his long-running role as dodgy used car salesman Arthur Daly in the legendary British comedy drama series Minder, a role he played for 15 years from 1979 to 1994. Trivia. The Vampire Lovers was made as a co-production between Hammer and American International, who were keen on taking advantage of a relaxing of censorship rules to create a more sexually explicit kind of vampire film. Hammer were warned about the lesbian content of the film by Chief British Censor John Trevelyan, but the studio refused to back down and pointed out that the lesbian themes were present in the original novel that the film is made from. The Vampire Lovers was the first film in a linked trilogy of vampire films made by the studio, the following two being Lust for a Vampire and Twins of Evil, both of which were released in 1971. The Vampire Lovers was released on DVD in 2003 and on Blu-ray in 2013. Reaction. The Vampire Lovers received a mixed reaction from contemporary critics, but has become a cult favourite of horror fans. What I think. I saw this early 70s Hammer horror for the very first time earlier this year, at around the same time as I was indulging in many of the Hammer Dracula movies, also for the first time, and was very impressed. This one, of course, ends up the normal formula by adding a female erotic lesbian twist to the usual vampire shenanigans, which certainly went down well in my house, I can tell you. Above and beyond all that sort of thing, though, I thought this was actually really well done, well acted and genuinely unsettling at times, with a really exciting and scary climactic showdown as well. Hey, it's Arthur Daly versus vampires. There is no universe in which that isn't completely bloody awesome. This may actually be my favourite Hammer that isn't actually a Dracula franchise movie, though it's still vampires, of course. And I am happy to give the vampire lovers a very strong A-.